Welcome back to Gino's Lair, and boy do we have something special for you today. If you grew up in the South, where I live, or even if you didn't, because this is now a worldwide name, Popcorn Sutton, legendary moonshiner extraordinaire, lived just maybe 50 miles from where I live. We have a recipe for food that Popcorn did at one point in time, and it's very unknown. There's only like one reference to it that I'm aware of, and it's in a video called The Best, or not the best, but the very last damn run of liquor I'll make, or something like that. I had that video, and that's where he actually mentions this recipe. So stick with us, and we'll be back. All right, we're back. Now, in that video I was telling you about, Popcorn was talking about one time when he was up on the mountain doing a batch of moonshine. He'd left his house, but forgot his lunch at the house. Okay, he was up on the mountain. He already had the still fired up and everything, getting ready to run that liquor. But the day before, he had been up on the mountain and cooking, and he had some vegetables and stuff up there and cooked over a fire up there. So he said he had peeled some tomatoes, peeled some onions, peeled some potatoes, and he had some ketchup, and he had some old saltine crackers, which we have right here. So we're going to utilize those ingredients. And the deal with the recipe was, and how it came about, was he was up there, he was ready to make the batch, and he had left his food at home, and he needed something to eat. So he went and he got those old peelings over the bank, put them in a pot, washed them off first, put them in a pot, and cooked them all down into somewhat of a soup, and took some saltine crackers that he had left in his truck and put it all together with some ketchup and made somewhat of a tomato, potato, onion soup. And so that's what we're going to do.
I took them stale crackers and that metal can full of homemade soup I made, and that was one of the best meals I ever had.
The beauty of what we're going to do today is that since we're not in an emergency situation, we actually are going to use the whole vegetables, so you'll get the full spectrum in the meatiness of the tomato and the potato and everything, so it'll be more filling, and we're not just scrimping in an emergency. Now, if all you had was peelings, then of course that would be a wonderful meal if you could dig up your old peelings if they haven't rotted first. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to get started. This is going to be somewhat of what I call a one-pot wonder, just because it's all going to be done in one pot. So Popcorn did a lot of cooking by the campfire and at the still sites, and he used a lot of bacon and he cooked with bacon grease and all that stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some leftover bacon grease to actually put in our pot, so that when we cook our ingredients, it'll have a flavor like that. I'm sure he did it. He didn't actually say in it. He didn't give it a recipe. He just said what he did. So for all intents and purposes, we're going to add a little bit of bacon grease here to the pot so that we can cook these potatoes and tomatoes and onion together. And I'm sure another thing he kept was some salt and pepper on hand. So we're gonna season it up, but we're gonna bring this up to high heat and try to get this going. And in the meantime, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut up these vegetables down here, the onion, the tomato, the potato, and I'll be back with you in a minute. So, since Popcorn had done a lot of outdoor cooking his entire life, I'm sure he knew the proper order to add these ingredients. So he would have known that the potatoes needed to be added first. Okay, now he was just using potato peelings, but I'm sure there was probably some actual potato meat on that, and he would have known that that had to be cooked first, and then the onions, and then the tomato would go in last. So that's what we're going to do. We have our potatoes cut up here, And since they're going to take longer to cook, we're going to go ahead and add those and let those be cooking. So he cooked all of this down to what he called a mush. So I like it a little bit chunkier, I can tell you that. Like I said, since I've already done this to try it out. So we're just going to let these cook down for a while, and we'll be back to you when they get cooked down to a consistency that I think it's time to add the onion. Since popcorn used the peelings, and there was probably a little bit of potato meat in there, and I'm using, you can see, cubed up potatoes, it's going to take longer to cook, and we have to cook it down until it's really, really done. So one thing I am going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of salt to bring out the moisture in this so that it will start to break down and cook a little quicker. Otherwise, we might be here a while, because if you know about making hash browns out of cubed potatoes, it can take a while, especially if you have them cut into big cubes like I do here. So we're going to add probably a half a teaspoon of salt to that. Now, we do know that popcorn did season with salt and pepper. I don't know that it was into any other seasonings, but I have seen him cook some things on videos using salt and pepper. So he would have probably added salt to give it some flavor. So, and that's going to help in the end. All right, now I think it's time to add the onion, because the potatoes are starting to get a little bit of brown on them, so they're starting to cook through. Still have a little bit longer to cook, but because we're using the thick cubes. So what we're going to do is now we're going to add, as you can see, some of them are starting to brown. And that's just where you want it, golden brown. Okay, then we're going to start to add the onion to give it flavor. And as you recall, we already have the salt in there, so that's going to help. I'm just going to stir this around. Put the lid on and start to let it cook back together. Now, here's something else we're going to do. Popcorn mentioned that he cooked it down to a mush. So, in order to get a mush out of this, we got to do something else. First, we're going to check and see if our onions are starting to get a little color to them, or if they're soft, which I think they are. Oh yeah, things are just where they need to be, I believe. So they're starting to soften up, and the potatoes as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull out the old potato masher, and we're going to mash the potatoes like we were making mashed potatoes, but not much. I like my stuff with a little consistency to it. So we're going to just squish them a bit, but not turn them into mashed potatoes. I just want some texture in there, and I love the texture. So, stir it around a little bit more, let that all come together. There we go. That's kind of mushy. All right. Now he would have probably added some water to give it a little more of a mushy texture, which we'll do in a minute after we add the whole tomatoes. We're going to cut up the tomatoes now. We're going to add it to that. Some of the water is going to come out of that, so it's going to thin down a little bit. And trust me, it is very good. Or at least it was the last time I cooked it, so we'll see how we go this time. I need to sharpen my knife, I believe. Okay, let me stir that in. We don't want to burn this on the bottom. Okay. We'll do the other tomato now. All right, now I'm going to add a little bit of water here. Just going to grab me a cup and put some water in there to thin it down just a bit. Don't know how much right now, since it is a soup. He did not say whether he drained the water off when he washed the peelings or not. I'm assuming he left some liquid in there, or he wouldn't have called it a soup, would he? I'm going to put the lid on there, let the tomato wilt a little bit, and let it cook together just a few more minutes, and we'll be back. Now we got the ketchup out. We've let that cook. It's kind of cooked to what I think he would consider a mush. And we're going to shake up the ketchup. Now, he said he added a whole bottle of ketchup. Sometimes popcorn was known to exaggerate a little bit, and he didn't say whether it was a tiny bottle, a big bottle, a gallon-sized bottle, one of these bottles. He didn't say, okay? So we got to think about the time frame this was in. It was probably a glass bottle, and it could have been a small glass bottle. So we're just going to add enough to make what I would consider to be some sort of tomato soup. Okay, so we got this all cooked together into a nice mush there. And now we're going to add a bunch of ketchup. So there we go. That's enough for me. And we'll just adjust it if we need to. Okay. So based on the amount of salt we added, we'll try to add that. And probably he would have used something like this. He wouldn't have cracked fresh pepper on the trail. So he would have added some more probably. Let that cook a minute, and I might add just a little bit more water to thin it down, because right now it's a stew. So I'll add a little bit more water to it. Thin it down just a little bit, because when we add our crackers like the old timers did, they didn't just dip a cracker down in there. They took a cracker and they crushed it up and put in there. So let's get it the consistency of kind of a soup right now. I think that's probably what it was like. Something like that. Now I got the big chunks, like I said, so it's not the exact recipe, but we're not starving in the woods, okay? But this is going to be wonderful. I know it is. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to turn it off. We're going to get us a bowl ready with some crushed crackers, and we're going to see how it is. So don't go away. Oh, and by the way, if you got anything from any of this, if you like this, hit the like, subscribe, and ring that damn bell as hard as you can, okay? So you'll get notifications whenever I put new videos up. Some people aren't getting them, so you got to do all that. Okay, we'll be back in a second. Now we're ready to plate this up. He had stale saltine crackers in his tray, okay? So any old timer who ever ate soup took these crackers and they usually just crushed them up into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crush up some saltine crackers into there, into the bowl. How much he didn't say, but how hungry you are makes a difference, and I'm kind of hungry right now. So now I'm going to grab a ladle and I'm going to put some of Popcorn's best. He said it was the best meal he ever ate.
That's one of the best meals I ever had. That's one of the best meals I ever had.
So let's put it on here. It smells absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So now something you got to remember is this is going to thicken up when you stir those crackers in. And that's what the old timers would have done, was they would have stirred those crackers in there. And it would start to absorb some of the liquid. They would thicken up. And I think that's what Popcorn Sutton had right there. So let's give it a taste test. All right. Get a little bit of everything here. Now, if I don't burn my mouth off, we'll be okay. But it's really hot, so. Absolutely phenomenal. For an old timer out on the trail who was hungry, didn't have anything except leftovers from scraps, to make something that tastes this good, the only thing I can say is you have to make this to appreciate it. It is absolutely wonderful. It tastes almost like a hash brown that has onions in it. They used to call those at the Waffle House scattered and smothered. It tastes like scattered and smothered hash browns with ketchup on them. So it's kind of like a hash brown soup. That's what it tastes like to me. I'm not going to call it that. I'm going to call it popcorn soup. But I got to have some more of this. It's just absolutely amazing. All right. I appreciate and love each and every one of you who come and watch my videos. I appreciate all of you who subscribe. That helps me out. I'm trying to reach a level where I can be able to bring you more videos, and I need to see more people on there for me to get the incentive and the drive and the initiative to keep going with this, because sometimes it's awfully depressing when you only got a handful of subscribers. So if you get anything out of this, please subscribe. Tell your friends, show it to them, and have them subscribe. And hit all those buttons and bells like I said. And until next time, try popcorn soup and tell all your friends. And when we come back next time, hopefully we'll get that camping trip done and we'll have some camping footage. Because I've been waiting to do that, but we have rain and rain and rain, and the wife working, and then the kids doing all kinds of stuff, and the school's out, and all of this virus stuff going on, and it has really impeded our ability to do the camping trip. So hopefully by next time, then maybe the next video I bring you will be the camp cooking. That's my hope. So until next time, see y'all. Love you. Stay in there. Stay safe. And see you next time. Cooking with Gino at Gino's Lair.